Hi guys, so today I'm here with Lauren James, who wrote The Next Together. So we're going to do a bit of a discussion about the book, which, spoiler, I absolutely loved. So hopefully you'll feel like you want to read it, because you definitely should.
So I'm Lauren, I'm 22, and this is my first novel. I've been writing it since I was 16, and it's finally a real book that I can hold. And I have a copy with me at all times, because I have a bit of separation anxiety. I need it in my handbag, so my copy's a bit bedraggled. This is my book.
So I think the thing that I loved most about The Next Together was the historical elements in it, which I think is different to a lot of things that have already been done in YA. So I was just wondering how you chose the history eras that you wrote about.
So the book's about a couple who keep being reincarnated through history, and so there's some timelines that are set in the past and some in the future. And the ones in the past I basically chose because I wanted to write like a Jane Austen Regency romance, really, but with a bit more plot. So I started looking for different ways to research history, and I didn't want to spend lots of money on like a big textbook. Because I was a student at the time, I was in my first year of university. So I just googled like, how do you research for books, how to be an author, and I found a lot of different diaries that were available to read for free on Google, and I started writing based on those. And I ended up writing about the Crimean War of 1854 and Jacobite Uprising of 1745. But they're just the sort of places where the story's set. The story's really about like a romance between two teenagers throughout history, and how being in different points in history changes your interactions with the same person and how it affects your relationship.
So do you think that being a teenager yourself when you wrote it helped with writing the characters?
Yes, definitely. So I started it when I was 16, and the characters have changed a lot since then as I've grown up and realised that I'm not always into like sparkling vampires, but having sort of the element of what I wanted to read when I was 16, I feel like really helps capture some sort of the sort of first love kind of feeling of when you're not really sure what's going on, and you're scared but you really like a person.
Saying that, I think that the character I most identified with was 2019 Catherine.
Yes, so one of the storylines is told through text messages and diary entries and emails and notes on the fridge between two characters. It's when they're a bit older and they're married, so because it's kind of a doomed love story in that always ends very badly. I wanted to have an idea of what their relationship would be like when they're actually together and they've been together for years, and so you can see what your whole book is about, is that they need to be together because they're perfect for each other. I love my characters. I feel like a lot of people really connect with that because it is like a really sweet marriage, basically. Can I ask you which was your favourite storyline?
I loved the story between Katie and Matthew during the Crimean War. That was the one that really, really gripped me. I think beforehand I expected to like 2039.
So when they're at university students together.
I expected to like that one more, but I just didn't as much.
Because that one's more about them remembering all their past lives rather than getting the groundwork of their relationship. By that time they've been together like 7 or 8 times, and they've done all of the flirting and stuff in past lives. So,
I find it interesting to build up to that. When you were writing it, did you write them in parts like it's written in the book, or all the time periods together?
So I worked backwards and I wrote the University 2039 storyline, and then started going back in history, then tied them all up together at the end and mixed them up. So I ended up having to do a lot of like getting big pieces of paper and laying them on the floor and writing out all my timelines, because there was just a lot happening and they're always remembering things from other lives, and it got very confusing.
I can't even imagine where you start with writing something like that.
I still get confused with the finished thing because of all the edits. Like I can't remember what actually happened and what doesn't happen anymore and what was just in my head. So
now that you're coming up to publication date, how are you feeling towards that? Feeling nervous or?
I've been waiting for so long, so it's been like 2 years now since I signed with Walker, because I signed when I was still at university and then I had to graduate and do all that before I could work on it, so it was a long publication. So I kind of just feel like I'm really ready for it to be out there, but I expect when it's actually there I'll start getting nerves.
Yeah, because I think I first knew you in April 2014.
Yeah, really early.
To me that seems ages, so I can't even, like I've waited since then to read The Next Together, but I can't imagine what it must be like.
There's some people who've been following me on Tumblr since like they remember when I was writing writing the first draft, and that was like 2009. So hopefully they'll get it soon.
So whilst you were writing it, you were obviously studying at
Yes.
university. How did you balance studying and writing?
So I wrote the first draft in the summer holidays every year. So I'd sort of have a year in between each writing session to think about what was going to happen next, and I'd write up to a point and then be like, I'll come back to you in a year because I'm stuck now. So that worked really well because obviously it's quite a complicated storyline, and it gave me all the ideas, like, oh, I'm going to put some time travel in because I've been thinking about this for a year and I think there needs to be time travel. I couldn't really write while I was actually studying because I am not a very good multitasker.
So you knew that you had a set amount to write. Did it give you more motivation?
Definitely. I've also found that I've carried on doing that, so now I'm a full-time author. Yay. When I'm writing books now, I've written 2 novels, and I'll write half and then leave it for a year and then come back to it, because I can't write a full novel in one go, because I'll just it would end up being really boring because I wouldn't have thought of half the plot.
And I think you reach a point anyway and you think it needs more time.
Yeah, it needs to incubate.
Yeah. And also you change in that year as well.
Like, as an author, you can only put in your books things that you know and you've experienced, and having more life experiences and travelling around the world or whatever, it really helps improve the wisdom of the book. Not that my books are very wise, but it makes me come up with funnier jokes.
Ending is quite dramatic,
Yeah.
to put it lightly. What have you got planned? The sequel?
Yes.
Is it going to be a full sequel or just a companion?
It picks up about 20 years where the Next Together leaves off, and you do meet Kate and Matt a lot more in the sequel, and you find out what happens to them, so it resolves all the cliffhangers.
I'm just so excited now. I'm just sat here like feeling like I'm going to jump up and down.
So hopefully it will answer all your questions, yes. But I can't tell you anything else.
I'm so excited. I just finished The Next Together and I was like, I need the next book now. I need it. Just like, what am I supposed to do
That's
in a
why
year?
I wrote it. It was supposed to just be originally one book, and then I finished writing it and I was like, well, I need to know what happens next. I better write it. So yeah, you're welcome.
I'm just incredibly excited now. Obviously the cover is just so gorgeous. When you saw it, how happy with it were you?
So every time they sent me different ideas for the cover, it would just get more and more perfect. I wouldn't think they'd be able to beat it, and then they'd send me something else, and then it would happen again, and I'd be just like, can I not have them all? Like, they're all gorgeous covers, let's have like a set. But yeah, the last cover, I really love it, especially because it's a very romantic book, and I was expecting I'd end up with like a boy and a girl kissing, like big on the cover, because that's kind of what you expect
The
from
one we
romance.
saw earlier.
Yeah, we saw some examples and they were not good.
Did you have any thoughts beforehand, like as you finished writing it, what you wanted it to look like, or?
So I had a picture that I'd kept like printed out by my desk whenever I was writing. It was a silhouette against an exploding volcano that a photographer like / explorer had gone and taken in front of an actual exploding volcano. So like they're surrounded by lava, and it's like their silhouette is like he's dipping her into a kiss, and it's very romantic. And that was kind of like how I felt about the book, was that they were like falling in love as the world exploded. So I always wanted something like that for the cover, but they ended up with this, and yeah, I just love it because it's very romantic, but also it's not like a very
I feel like you could
kissing
go
cover.
into a shop and see it and you wouldn't have any misconceptions about it.
Yeah, it portrays really well
Yeah,
the book.
and it is also pretty gender neutral.
Yes,
I think,
and it's got a lot of crossover for like
Yeah.
adults and teenagers.
yeah,
as
definitely.
well.
But I think the problem with romance way sometimes is that they can be marketed as
Pink and
in your
silver and
face,
glitter,
yeah.
and yeah, so I'm really, really happy, like over the moon with my cover.
I think everyone else is. You're pretty active on Tumblr.
Yes, I'm mainly avoiding writing other books.
The community that you've built up around that so far, like how do you feel about that, and does that help you write?
Yes, I get so many ideas. Like my 4th book that I'm working on at the minute was actually inspired by a Tumblr post, so I find it a huge source of inspiration. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to be leaving Tumblr anytime soon, even though I feel like quite old because I'm 22 and everyone's like a teenager on there. It's definitely a really nice community, and it's very creative.
Yeah. I think I'm not a very artistic person, but when I go on Tumblr, I'm just instantly inspired. It's just so easily identifiable. I spend too much time on that too, just flicking through. Thank you so much for talking to me about The Next Together.
You're welcome. Thank you for
So
having me.
it's out on
September the 3rd in the UK and Australia.
Just everybody needs to read it. It's just one of those books that everybody's going to love.
If not just for the cover.
Yeah, just buy it for the cover. I just stare at it all day long. I don't
Same.
read books, I just stare at them. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.